lease agreement with Safe Cove Counseling. The petitioner is present. I don't know if you have any other further questions from Anita. We're just seeking a motion to adopt that one-year lease.
So moved.
Second.
Alderman Deskin, seconded by Alderman Smith. Any discussion?
I'd just like to make a comment. So, just to be clear, I know some of you guys know, but I wasn't able to be here last week. I'm going to abstain from voting, and I fully support this, and I think it's a great idea. But I am on the board of this charity, so just to remove any perception of anything wrong, I'll abstain from here. But Anita,
Recuse yourself.
I'll recuse myself. Anita is doing a great job, and I think everybody, Ben, everybody at the city who's tried to help put this together, I think it's a fantastic effort, and she's putting a ton of effort into this, so I think it can be a great asset to the city, and I look forward to this being successful for years to come in Lockport.
All right, sounds good. We have enough folks here to carry this if with votes. Sure. I mean, if we vote in favor. All right, so we had a motion. Can I have a roll call vote then?
Sure. Arata?
Yes.
Marinowski?
Yes.
Deskin?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
And Cappadonna.
Yes.
5 yeas, motion carried.
All right, thank you. All right, Senior Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I am looking for a motion to approve the various bills as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Was it you, Darren? Seconded by Alderman Cappadonna. Any discussion? All right, can I have a vote, please?
Yes.
Marinowski?
Yes.
Vandermeer?
Yes.
Deskin?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thanks. Nothing from the chief?
Yes, sir. Seeking authorization to make some changes in the police department. I believe I've already been...
I think it's is this committee of the whole, though?
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's that's for the next meeting, actually, Chief. It's the committee of the whole. Sorry. Yeah.
Nope, that's my fault. I shouldn't have called you out. I should have just jumped over you.
Nothing
Sorry.
for the chief quite yet.
All right, so nothing from the chief for this. But city attorney.
Yes, I have Resolution 14021, which is a resolution repealing the resolution which, for the proceeds of video gaming, there was a portion set aside for Gambling Anonymous. We found out essentially you can't really donate to that, any anonymous organization. So the new resolution says that all the video gaming revenue shall be devoted to downtown redevelopment activities.
All right, so can we have a motion to pass Resolution 14021?
So moved.
Second.
Alderman Cappadonna, seconded by Alderman Deskin. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We should really take
Want to do a roll on that? All right, roll call, please.
Arata?
Yes.
Marinowski?
Yes.
Vandermeer?
Yes.
Deskin?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
2 yeses from Brian.
What's the other one?
And then on the amended agenda, I'm asking for an executive session for 2C5, purchase of property.
All right, sounds good.
Oh, 2C5, I'm sorry, 2C5 and 2C11, they're related to the same issue.
Pam, you going to take this next one?
The item I have on the agenda is a motion to pass ordinance number 1406, which is an ordinance amending Chapter 118 entitled Facade Improvement Grant Program. This item was presented to the Committee of the Whole on February 5th. Essentially, staff is requesting that the maximum facade grant reimbursement be increased from the current $5,000 to $10,000. The intent of this increase is to encourage more significant facade improvements, as well as to assist us with the elimination of non-conforming signs, which is a requirement to have conforming signage when you apply for the grant program. The ordinance that's attached maintains the same regulations as the current program, except for the increasing of the reimbursement to $10,000. Therefore, staff is seeking the council's action to pass this ordinance.
All right, can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Alderwoman Marinowski, seconded by Alderman Vandermeer. Can I have a vote?
Yes.
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 Deskin?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. You got another one?
Yes. The next item is a text amendment as it relates to medical cannabis facilities. This was presented at the February 5th Committee of the Whole. Just to reiterate for those not in attendance, the state passed in the beginning of this year a 4-year pilot program, and the ordinance that's before you this evening essentially gives us some ability to regulate for our community. If not, then the regulations as presented by the state would come into play. When this item was presented, the only recommendation that came from the council was to increase the separation distance for the actual dispensing facilities from 1,000 feet to 2,500 square feet, or 2,500 feet, which was the same requirement for the actual where the cultivation centers have that same requirement of 2,500 feet from schools, public or private, preschools, elementary schools, daycare centers, daycare homes, group homes, any kind of child care facility, park, religious institutions, and libraries. That was the only change that's made. That's what's been presented in the ordinance before you. And staff is seeking a motion for you to pass ordinance number 1402, 002.
Anybody want to make the motion?
I'll make that motion.
Alderman Marinowski,
Second.
seconded by Alderman Deskin. May I have a vote?
Well, I just want to make a comment. If and when this ever does come up in the future, I did read something from an Illinois site, potential 3 dispensaries in Will County. The state law is 1,000 feet. So when this comes up in the future, if it comes up in the future, this will have to be struck to 2,500 square feet, 2,500 feet, because it is not in compliance with the state law. I'm just pointing out that this 2,500 feet is not in compliance with the state law.
Does the state law say a maximum of 1,000 feet, or?
Is a minimum of 1,000 feet.
Well, if it's a minimum, then you can extend it.
Well, if somebody wants to bring it to 1,000 feet, then we would have to honor the state law. So I'm just pointing that out.
All right, well, it's something that can be discussed in the future, so.
I just, and I apologize because I wasn't here, so I should have the question. I wasn't here last meeting because I wasn't feeling well. But has anyone looked at this requirement is 2,500 feet that effectively prohibit any dispensary or cultivation center in the city of Lockport?
Well, based on where we've proposed them, they would be allowed to locate, which is in an M1 and M2 district, as a special use. Given that most M1 and M2s, are fairly large areas in the city, it doesn't necessarily prohibit them. There is the possibility of them able to locate in certain portions of those properties that would be zoned that.
Okay, so there still is space available in Lockport in M1 or M2 that would comply with the 2,500 feet setback?
I believe so.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, why don't we do a vote?
Corretto?
Yes.
Marinowski?
Yes.
Vandermeer?
Yes.
Deskin?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Capitano?
Yes.
The next item is again a text amendment to the city's development review procedures. This would be ordinance number 14003. It was presented to the Committee of the Whole on February 5th. There were no recommendations or further changes from the council. Essentially, again, for those not in attendance, this eliminates one step to help to streamline our development review process, which was a required neighborhood meeting. Even with the removal of this, there are plenty opportunities through the Plan Commission process as well as the council process, which essentially one project could come to 4 times. There is still opportunity for the public to come and present any issues or concerns. If staff, when working with an applicant, finds that the project may be contentious and needs further input from residents before the actual required meetings, we would certainly encourage that applicant to make contact with those neighbors to have a separate meeting just to address any issues that might come up. So with that being said, we are asking for a motion to pass this ordinance number 14003.
Anyone? Bueller? Oop. Alderman Smith, seconded by? Second. Alderman Peretta. Can we vote?
Yes.
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 Peskin?
Yes.
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 All righty. Any new business?
I got a couple items just to update the residents. Obviously, we have a new chief. I had the opportunity to ride with Chief Fleming. I think it was 4 or 5 weeks ago. I know it was in the month of January, so it gave me an opportunity to give my perspective on what's going on in the city. We focus mainly on the old 4th Ward, which is Division Street, everything south from State Street all the way east to Gallagher Road. And I took them through all the subdivisions and various streets throughout the older section of 4th Ward and letting them know, well, these are kind of calls I'm getting. A lot of speeders on this road, and over here we had some problems with certain issues. And so I just appreciate the chief's time to ride with. I know he rode with a couple others up here on council, so that was very beneficial. And also Chief and Deputy Chief met with me and Principal Shoppy at Butler School. So he could have the opportunity to meet the principal at that school. And, between the chief and deputy chief gave him some suggestions about improvements on safety. And I know Principal Shoppy has forwarded some of those suggestions to the safety committee. So keep up the good work. I appreciate it. And then the last item that I do have, I happen to have some business with the mayor on Monday. He's going through his mail and he goes, "Hey, Peretta, take care of this." So he gives me this item, and it's in reference to looking for someone in the city of Lockport to be Mrs. Illinois. So myself and Catherine, my wife, we did identify one candidate, but I'm a big believer in competition to see if there's any other Mrs. Illinois candidates out there in the city of Lockport to represent our fair city to win the grand prize. You have to be married, is all the requirements that's involved. And I did request the packet, and lo and behold, they sent
Wow.
a little banner for anyone who's interested.
Model that for us.
Lovely.
Model that for us.
Mrs. Lockport. So I'm bringing this up is if anyone is interested, anyone who's married, doesn't matter what the age is, you have the opportunity to apply. There is an application fee, so give us a call. The contact information's at the website, and we're just looking for more contestants as far as this is concerned. So I told my wife I was going to wear it at the meeting, but I decided against it. Thanks.
Thanks, Bob.
Mayor, I have a request. We need a special meeting tentatively for the council on Tuesday, February 25th. This would be the final agreement with the Lockport Square. Ron, I don't know if we can firm that up by Friday, by email, or
Yeah,
have it
I
posted.
think, it's, remember we passed a priority agreement and we brought it back if we were going to make some modifications to it. So we are going to modify the amount of the priority agreement. So they have closed on the property that was, they haven't closed, famous last words. The closing is set for Tuesday, I think March 4th, and of course, everybody, they need all the documents necessary to close, and this is one of those documents. So if nobody has a problem with that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the date. What was that?
I believe it was we're looking for next Tuesday, February
Closing March
25th.
4th.
We need to do something so they can close on March 4th.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have a problem with it, but I might be out of town. What happens if I'm not here? Can we still
Can you
do this?
assign someone?
You can,
You can assign a mayor pro tem,
Yeah.
yeah.
But generally, the oldest sitting member, and I think longest sitting member,
in the
I
past,
think that would be Brian.
law,
Okay,
Graybeard over there.
yeah.
you know, the
Yeah.
history of this is that, you know, some mayors do it on the basis of seniority, some, you know, rotate, some say this is.
Well, that's fine. Well, you guys, we'll figure it out. I just want to know if it's possible, so it is.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah, I don't, by no means do I want to delay. So,
Why Tuesday then? I mean, why not a Wednesday or?
Well, because we can ask ones, they really want to close this, we want a special meeting this Friday. They want to get it as close to the close, as far away from the closing as possible, because they need approvals from the Bank of America for the letters of credit, they need an exchange of letters of credit, they need other approvals, and in the scale of things, we're, you know, about fourth or fifth as opposed to first or second. They have an agreement, they have to close by a certain date. Obviously, they can get an extension, but the bank, you know, there's always, if you don't close on this date, you know, they put money down, so they're always a little nervous if they have an extension.
so is the consensus okay for that Tuesday?
I will be there. I will be here next Tuesday.
I'll be here.
Okay. Bob, you can be around?
Yeah.
Okay.
7 o'clock okay, or do you want a little earlier?
We'll have a quorum.
Chris,
You-
you okay?
I think 7 would.
7's fine? Okay. Normal
I have a
time?
deposition in Rockford.
Sure. Oh,
Around noon, so
okay.
earlier might be a problem for me.
Bring back some Lino's Pizza, okay?
Notes? All right, I'll have to find it.
And then I have one other suggestion, I guess, for new business. If we don't currently have a policy in place about a mayor pro tem, I'd like to discuss having one. I'll work out some discussions with Ron and bring it back to the council. And typically, we could have a system of rotation by quarter or monthly, or like, again, we'll come up with some ideas and bring it to you to discuss. I think it's a good idea to have in case, you know, heaven forbid, something happens to the mayor, or if he can't be here, or we have a procedure in place to have a mayor pro tem in process.
All right, sounds
If you're okay
good.
with that, we'll bring some recommendations to you. We'll do some research and bring you some options.
Speaking of other mayors, the mayor of Asiago and the Asiago, Italy City Council, they gave us not us, but they approved being sister cities with Lockport. So moving forward, I had Ben and Jack fill out the paperwork for Sister Cities International, and yeah, everyone over there is very excited. And all the Radigeros and
Evas and the
Evas and
Ficaros.
yeah, the
Ficaros,
Ficaros,
Bezzavento.
they're all excited over here.
No, not Peretta. You're not from Asiago, are you?
No, not from there.
Are you a Northern Italy guy?
I actually,
Or south.
Okay.
I've actually, one of my hobbies is genealogy, and I've actually done all the family histories of the Canevas and the Radigeros and the Ficaros.
You did a little bit of my family, too.
Did Bob's too.
Yeah, he stopped digging when he got too deep with the Parettas. He better stop.
Darren
now.
found the picture of the boat that my dad took
Yeah.
to Italy.
Really?
It was made out of Legos.
I showed it to my dad.
All right, we're digressing fast. Are there any open floor comments? All right. Then can I have a motion to, what do we, I forget, not adjourning, we are recessing. Motion to recess.
Make a motion.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, so it was Vandermeer, seconded by Capadona. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All righty. Jump over to my other document here. Okay. Committee of the whole. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about jumping in here with Ben and the
Sure.
Visitors Bureau. Why don't I say a few things about this first?
Okay.
You know, one of the things that's, you know, been working staff, you know, on a lot of different projects here in the city. Everything from, you know, this Lockport Square and, you know, getting the engineering done and putting staff on that, making that happen. The city council working hard, coming in for special meetings. You know, we've been working a lot on that stuff. We've got Amy working on a 5-year capital improvement plan with addresses our water and our sewer and our roads. We've been changing our fiscal budget to get it in sync with the construction season, should help things there. We've got Amy working on plans to reconfigure some parking in the downtown, which should add some spaces and make it a lot more pedestrian friendly. We're working with IDOT to keep our on-street parking, which they wanted to get rid of for turn lanes. I think we submitted a great alternative plan, and I think they're open to it, so that's good. We've been working on that. We've been working on some property acquisition, for these distressed properties, working on those things. Obviously, we continue to help out with ML Realty Park and those things, doing what we need to do as a council to keep those projects rolling, and it's always something going on that we have to deal with. We passed the business development district on 159th Street corridor so that we can put some funds and, keep start with some beautification on there and clean that up, make it look nice as people come into town. So there's a lot of good projects. Lower the tap-on fees, right, for builders so we can get the housing starts going. We're doing the right stuff. And there's another half a dozen things I can't think of at the moment. But there's a lot of stuff that we're working on, which is all positive. But along with that, one of the things that's important as well is to make sure that we brand Lockport in Chicagoland. Wherever I go, when I get north of I-55 or east of Wolf Road, nobody even knows where Lockport is. And it's not necessarily a pride thing. It's just more like it's problematic when it comes to development. It's hard to attract folks who want to move out here to a great dynamic community if they don't know about it. And while developers and retailers, they know about Lockport, it's like any sales that you make. If you're not in front of that person all the time, they will, drift off and go to somebody else who's more proactive from another city or another town who's, in their face more. And so it's important for us to have Lockport on the lips, on the minds of everyone from entrepreneurs to developers to investors, just folks seeking to find a great place to live. And so with that said, it's been important to me to start outreach into Chicagoland, whether it's, advertising in West Suburban Living. I know that Main Street has been they've been placing some small ads over the course of the year, past year, which is good because that's opened us up now for an opportunity to have a city highlight that's coming up in that magazine because they've kind of laid the groundwork. But we also need to be part of that. Main Street is, it's important that the city shores up and helps create our own ads, put our own stuff out there, working with radio, making sure that people outside of the city know about Lockport. We need to promote our strengths. And so what are our strengths? We have great schools. We have a very historic downtown that's extremely unique. It's got 4 museums, all within walking distance. You don't have that anywhere else. We have a downtown library. One of our museums is an Illinois State Museum. There's only 4 of those in the whole state of Illinois, so that's very special. We have the Will County Historical Society Museum for all of Will County is here. We have the new Heritage Village. We have an interactive Lincoln Landing Park that's got curriculum for schools. I mean, there's so much interesting stuff. Not to mention a bike path, which is great for coming down and parking down there at 2nd Street. We have a new parking lot for them to park at, and they can get on this path. There's much to promote. We also have a great festival in Old Canal Days. One of the reasons that I wanted the city to kind of manage it this year was a number of reasons. One, it helps us get better buy-in from other organizations. I can now reach out to Rotary and Lions and the library and other groups like the Lockport Women's Club and ask them to be part of it. And because it's a city function, it's easier for them to buy in and be part of it. And so while it's good for the city to, one of our oldest festivals, the other thing is I, as mayor, can do some things to help make it even larger. For instance, we're working with MWRD. They are willing to open up the hydraulic power plant this year, which is extremely cool. And if you've never been there, you'll have an opportunity. And if you haven't been there, it's because they never opened the thing up for people to see. It was built in 1907. It has these giant turbines in it. It still generates $1 million worth of electrical power. They've got a machine shop that's all belt driven. You pull a lever and these belts turn. And it's just really interesting, very cool. And, they're willing to open that up at Old Canal Days and have a shuttle bus that brings people there. So there's things that we can expand upon as the city runs it. And so that was one aspect that I wanted to do. And I shared, with everyone a few weeks ago about the summer art series that while I want to start off small, nothing that, is too big, I want to make sure that it's successful, is that ultimately I'd like to be something that generates interest every couple weeks throughout the summer to attract folks. So these two items here are about being able to do those things. We are doing fundraising for Old Canal Days like has been done in the past, but one of the things that I asked Ben about was like, look, let's appropriate this money for the festival, because I've got a lot of volunteers, people putting their time on it. The last thing they need to do is operate under the stress that, oh, what if we don't get enough money? We are getting money, but I want to make sure that everybody understands that this is covered. We're going to take care of it. And as that money comes in, we can, deduct it from what we put aside for it. So Eric and Ben have looked at ways to find that and find the monies that's necessary to advertise it and promote it throughout the region. And I think it's a great complement to all the other things that we've been working hard on, is to let people know that Lockport exists and understand the benefit of being part of it, whether it's for living here, moving here with your business, or just visiting. So, Ben, if you can talk about these things now.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I did write a couple of memos, and I'd like to echo some of your comments. I think one of the things, one of the challenges that was brought to me, and sometimes I like to think that maybe that was one of the reasons you hired me, was I had a background in community branding and marketing and destination marketing, and it leads to economic vitality. And you have to maximize your exposure and advertise and let people know that you're here, and the growth will come. So we looked at this in a couple different ways, and I worked with Derek, because this wasn't necessarily a line item in the budget, in the current budget. And what we did is we looked at the reallocation of certain funding that was in the budget this year under professional services and miscellaneous expenses, so that we're not going to go over our fiscal budget. And on the first item, in regards to the partnership, and it is a partnership, it's the 3 Ps. It's a private-public partnership where the City of Lockport and the Heritage Corridor Convention and Visitors Bureau can maximize our dollars by doing those media spends together. Heritage Corridor also does this with other communities in the area, Joliet, Ottawa, Morris, and others. And they're the brand media experts. They have the experience in negotiating contracts with radio stations and billboard companies and things. And so what I proposed in this memo to you was really a comprehensive branding campaign for the community of Lockport for the whole calendar year of 2014. Not just our special events, but we're also going to be launching a new website this summer, and I want to make sure we can advertise that. We have the special events. We have restaurants and attractions here that I want to be able to help grow, and so it's kind of a comprehensive package. And what I'm kind of proposing here is we allocate the funding to do this, and then we work with the Heritage Corridor to get the best spends in the right locations with the right partners. And we will bring back a report to the council about where this money all went and what we got, some ROI, some return on our investment, to see where the money went, and hopefully the tourism dollars and leisure travel experience goes up. There's no management fee from the Heritage Corridor to do this for us. Part of their funding is from the state of Illinois. They're one of the 40 certified bureaus in Illinois that works in tourism with the governor's office, and so they get grant funding for participating with municipalities. We are a member of their organization, so that's why they're willing to do some of this work. And they also get a benefit too, where our dollars mixed with Joliet dollars and Ottawa dollars are able to get this larger media spend, and so everyone does a little better together. And then, in full transparency, I just wanted to make it known that I am currently the chair of that organization, the Heritage Corridor Convention and Visitors Bureau. When I was in Joliet, I was on their board, and I'm serving a 4-year term. And I just wanted to have that out there that, there isn't a financial management fee involved in this going back to that organization. It's a separate thing. So we do have the memo here, and if you have any questions about where we're going to place it, I have additional information I can provide to you, more data as we go. But again, it wasn't a line item when I was hired, and it's something that I think it's important to get a jump on this year because people are starting to plan and organize for the summer, and this will be advertising dollars for the community for the calendar year of 2014. The second item on there is the CA2 is kind of a little bit in concert with it. It's as you mentioned, the funding for Canal Days. And one of the things I just wanted to clarify was that, again, this was something we kind of picked up mid-budget. We will be able to budget for this kind of thing in the future. But we're asking to allocate the funding so that in case we need it, we have it available to cover these expenses, to make sure that the Lockport community has a good festival. We are getting sponsorship dollars in. Every dollar that we get in, the amount that we're trying to appropriate will go down. So if we bring in a $20,000 sponsor, and I know other people like Chevron put in $15,000 last year, I'm sure they've been approached this year. When that kind of money comes in, the liability from the city side will go down. So we're hoping we can raise $50,000 and the net expense to the city will be zero, but I can't promise that at this time, and we're all going to work towards that goal. But because eventually, you know, the event is, we just want it to be a success. And so I think the mayor had some good comments about we really want the community members to feel confident that the city is behind this, and I just wanted to make sure, working with Eric, that the city appropriates, at least in the budget, a plan for that funding if needed. And so, you know, and we will be spending some of that early on because we have to wrap up entertainment and contracts ahead of, you know, the actual expenses coming in. But again, as sponsorship dollar comes in, our liability will be less, and we'll have a full budget and everything to show you when it's all over and where all the expenses went. So other than that, I'm open to questions.
All right. Want to start, Bob? You got any comments?
I know over the years, I would get frustrated seeing other towns promoting other towns' festivals, and that would get me frustrated. It's like, man, Lockport's got to do a better job of promoting our own festivals. So one, we keep our own residents in town spending money so we could get that sales tax revenue within town, and then two, attract non-Lockport residents to come to our town and spend their money right here in town, and of course enjoy themselves and have good family activity. I'm glad to hear that you mentioned you want to incorporate the restaurants, especially downtown Lockport. You know, that's something that I think we could do a better job of promoting those restaurants. Not everyone knows about Tallgrass, 6-star restaurant right here in town. When I'm on a business trip, on a flight, you open up those Sky magazines, many times I'll see Tallgrass right here in Lockport, you know, being featured as far as one of the fine restaurants to attend to in the Chicagoland area. So Lockport has a lot to offer, and I just think we got to do a better job, and I'm happy to hear that we're going to utilize your skills, Ben, to, you know, do that type of marketing that Lockport deserves.
There's a stat out there about tourism and visitor dollars multiply 7 times each time they come in. So if a person spends $1, they're visiting to your community. It's if they spend it at the restaurant or the gas station or the attraction, that they're spending those dollars here with those owners, and those people spend their dollars in the community, and it just keeps turning over. And so visitor and tourism dollars are important to a local economy.
Denise, you got something?
Yeah, I've heard since day one that I moved to the city, people talking about the downtown and how it could be so nice. And I'm excited for the mayor's plans and your plans to at least throw something out there and make a real concerted effort to, you know, to see it. There's no guarantees, but it certainly sounds as if this is, you know, a good plan and you need some funding to make it fly. And I think it'll be well spent, and hopefully it'll be bringing the city a lot more revenue. So, yeah, I think it's very good.
Thanks, Denise. Jason, you got anything?
Yeah, so I agree with Denise. You know, I think that we need to, everybody always talks about the downtown, and I think our downtown is very good, but we're still working to try to make it great, right? And these are the kind of things that we can do to attract people, which attracts business, right? And it's kind of a circular thing there. Ben, one thing I was curious about, you know, for $40,000, and I don't know, you know, the Heritage Corridors budget or anything like that, but do we have any estimate of what type of exposure those will get us, right? Or is it really they pool everything together and we get a percentage of what they can buy?
A little bit of both. There was, I did have a proposal from the organization, and I can share that with you. It's like 50 pages long, and I didn't want to, bottle everybody down. But there's a lot of the ones that I'm most in favor of are, I like the electronic billboards because you can allocate that time over several month period, and we can change the message. So in the beginning of the spring and summer, we can talk about Canal Days and the art series. After those are over, I can use it to showcase the website. If other events come up, we have time and purchased amounts that we can kind of change the message. Also, I mean, there's ideas like pace bus wraps, obviously radio advertising, whether it's in the Chicago market or more local with like a Next Media type. And again, other different communities are buying this space too, and so sometimes we may be deciding on one station or another, but if there's an opportunity where we can save money and get the same kind of demographics, we'll put our money with where they already have a contract that we can expand upon and get those savings. So that's why I'm kind of saying, well, we're not exactly sure where we're going to place it, but it's going to be in some of those mediums, radio, print, and digital, and whether that's online. Also, there's some opportunities there. So, and I'll be happy to email this to everybody.
I'm just curious. I mean,
yeah.
And you're not locked into doing only what they do. For instance, because, like I told you, Main Street had a history now for the last couple of years of doing advertising in West Suburban Living, which I think is a really good magazine for this. They agreed to go in halves with us on 3 full-page ads. So that saved us $3,000 because they were going to pony up. So we can still do other things. The only requirement that Heritage Corridor says, like, look, we're not in that ad buy, but just put our logo in the corner. So, you can create an ad and I put it in the corner and that's fine. So we're not obligated to do only what they do. We could, if we find deals like this where we're cost sharing with Main Street, we can take advantage of it still.
Yeah, so I like it. I mean, I'm typically pretty conservative about how we spend tax dollars. Tax dollars, but I think both of these are great efforts, and I appreciate the mayor's vision, you guys executing and really trying to get out there and put a dent in some of these things.
Yeah, and one of the items might be Comcast. In Joliet does a lot of cable advertising, but they're a much larger community. They put like $250,000 towards advertising. It's a much bigger game. We won't be on cable. Maybe someday if we do so well, but revenues are much higher. But yeah.
I think it's a great idea. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in advertising in this town over the last 22-3 years since I've been in business. You have to spend money to make money. So I think this is a small amount for what we're trying to accomplish. I also believe that I think this, especially the 40,000 Heritage Corridor, I think it's really going to pay off from the commercial standpoint when we have these. It could help fill up up at the Grogan property almost immediately. So it isn't just the downtown that we're looking at. We're looking at everything, and I honestly believe we'll actually be with. We'll get the benefits from the commercial development that we'll receive versus the tourism, and I think the tourism would be great, but I really think this would be great for commercial.
Yeah, community branding is definitely a big component of that retail recruitment that we're trying to do as well.
All righty. Brian, you got anything?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Just to go over a few things that were already mentioned. First of all, I have the opportunity to work in many communities in the state of Illinois, and I guess I'm partial, but there's nothing like Lockport. Our downtown, compared to many communities I go through, Lockport is by far a standout because maybe I know it's there, but between our canal area and the buildings we have here in town, and we're really fortunate to have this. So I'm partial, I love it. But a few things that were said tonight. Again, Darren talked about investment in our community, and that's the first thing that comes to mind that I have when we talk about things for our city and we do things is investing in our own community. It comes back to us. I think it's good for our citizens here in town. The mayor had talked a little bit about the powerhouse in town. I'm fortunate enough to go there. I've been there several times. That's like going back in history there, and very good. So I'm glad that was exciting. But when the mayor brought this, forward to budgeting this again, I was ecstatic about it. I thought there's nothing like investing in your community again. So I think this is a great thing. It sounds like Steve and Ben have a really good handle about some advertising, some good ideas. So I'm excited to hear that too. So again, I'm all for this, and wish nothing but the best here for this. So.
Chris, you got anything?
Yeah, just want to say great work. I think it's a great idea. You can't expect others to come into Lockport and invest in Lockport if we're not willing to invest in ourselves. So I think it'll pay off dividends, if not in the near future, definitely in the future.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Ruby, put it down as an action item then for next, okay. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. This have a quick finance update for January 2014. If you did notice on your desk up there, I did include updated balance sheet and income statement. For some reason, these included December numbers when they went out with the packets. These updated ones are accurate, so if you could go off of those. Just really quickly going through our revenues, all of them are still performing very similarly to earlier this year. Sales tax and non-home rule sales tax are performing well, 4% and 5% better than last year's number. Property taxes aren't received in January, so there's no updates there. Income tax is still coming in about 5.5% better than last year. And for building permits and tap-on fees, these are the two revenue sources that we've been seeing struggle all year. They continue to struggle. Building permit revenues came in about $13,000 less just for January compared to last year. And tap-on fees, we only received one for a reduced amount of $5,000. It's still too soon with the bad winter to say if this has helped at all, but hopefully as we move forward in the spring, we'll see more growth. Finally, telecom tax continues to perform weak, about 7% less than last year. This isn't big dollar amounts. This equates to about $12,000 fiscal year to date less than last year. As for the updated cash and investment statement, this shows that we are maintaining a very strong cash position. We're at about $31.8 million, and we do expect this to come down because we did budget for a drawdown. The monthly revenues and expenditures for the month of January, we had expenses exceed revenues by about $261,000, once again expected. This is because the general fund doesn't receive as many revenues in the month of January, one of the largest being property taxes, and the water and sewer improvements. This actually included some expenses, including the influent pump for Bonnie Bray. So therefore, we've just seen a lot more expenditures this month than revenues in that fund. Finally, the year-to-date revenues and expenditures, there's nothing to note here. The one expense item I do want to note is streets overtime. I do believe with this most recent snowfall, we've probably reached the overtime budget. So anything here on out we'll be going over on. I do believe we'll have some savings in other expense line items that can offset this. We'll just have to keep waiting and seeing and hoping that the snow slows down in the coming weeks.
All right. We'll probably have to send some trucks out for ice tomorrow, but
Yeah.
mercy. Okay. Any questions for Eric? Thanks, Eric. Okay, Chief, now.
Today is my 50th day as your police chief. Flattered to be here. I'm honored to be here, and I truly mean that. I've had the opportunity to meet with most of you, Alderman Marinowski and Smith. We had some snow-related issues we couldn't hook up yet, but I tend to hook up to in the future. Mayor, I think one of the things that we could sell about Lockport is that we have a safe community. And part of the reason is because we have a good police department, and that's due to those who preceded me. But we have a good police department. We have a lot of good, dedicated police officers. But just recently, I noticed after being here 50 days, and it didn't take me 50 days to learn this, because when I was with the state police, part of my job was to restructure districts. So I did that throughout the state. So when I came here, I realized that we had a command structure flaw here in the police department. So this afternoon, I just reached out to 3 departments. I didn't fish for the ones that were going to give me the right answer. I just picked the first 3, and they were Westmont and Lenox and Lamont. And their structure, command-wise, I'll give you Lockport's first. We have a chief, a lieutenant, 5 sergeants, 36 total officers, and our population is just under 25,000. Westmont has a chief, 2 deputy chiefs, 7 sergeants, 39 total officers, and they just lost their home rule status. They're just under 25,000. New Lenox has a chief, 2 deputy chiefs, 5 sergeants, 37 total officers, and their population is around 25,000. Lamont has a chief, 2 commanders, 5 sergeants, 27 total officers, but their population is 17,000. Earlier today, you gave me the authority to appoint a deputy chief, so I intend to appoint Dave Draxler as deputy chief as soon as we can get his badge made. And I would be seeking authority to make the following changes. To promote a sergeant to lieutenant, move an existing sergeant that's in patrol to the detective division. We've been without a sergeant detective section for years, and that's unheard of. Also, we'd promote a sergeant or a officer to sergeant to replace the sergeant that went to investigations, and then hire a brand new police officer. And then in July of 2014, I'd be seeking permission to promote an officer to replace Sergeant Rona, who's already offered his retirement on July 6th. He's already indicated he's retiring in writing. So that would be a authorization to hire a brand new police officer. That would be a $50,000 savings because he's making the top of the salary, and the officer would be starting at the new level.
Okay. I mean, it's obviously something we have to work through with numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Eric and myself and the chief have been working on this, and I think the overall goal was to fix the command structure. You know, we didn't want to have a Band-Aid, so it was more of a comprehensive view of what do we need to do to make the police department's command feel whole. These promotions, the ones for March, were all already budgeted in this fiscal year. The total is about $12,000. And so the one thing we talked about also in the memo was that $35,000 for the remainder of this fiscal year was going to be utilized with some federal seizure money. So that's kind of a nice opportunity to help this pay for this until the next fiscal. So other than that, we're in agreement with this.
Okay. So is this something that needs to go, is this ready for an action item, or?
Yes, yeah, we're seeking a motion to approve these suggestions and promotions as presented.
Okay. All right, folks.
Can I ask one question about the federal seizure money? You know, I've heard this term many times over the years, and is this from what we see here in town with? Okay, so.
We have an officer assigned to DEA, and the DEA works in all northern Illinois, and it's the money that's seized through our DEA agent.
So if there's a drug seizure here in town, and we take their truck and their car and their house, and that gets sold, that's this federal seizure money that basically kind of goes into a kitty and then gets dispersed out, or?
Yes, but the ones that we do in town here are usually state seizures through our officer that's in the Metropolitan Area Narcotics Squad at Joliet Mans. Those would be state seizures, and we have a state forfeiture account and a federal seizure account, but most of the federal seizure account comes from our officer assigned to the DEA.
Thank you.
Can I ask a couple of questions? From what I'm reading here, you're actually only hiring one new police officer. You're just promoting, and the sergeant that's going to go into investigations, a detective that's there is going to go on patrol?
Yes.
Okay. And so you're just hiring one, and then next year you're just going to hire one to replace a retiring